Today, we are going over the Omnichannel Domination on how to use Amazon to build your empire off Amazon. Basically, what we're talking about is how brands can diversify and not be so reliant on Amazon and start to build their brand off Amazon while also benefiting from Amazon's data to improve that brand off Amazon and also potentially building their Amazon business simultaneously. So developing these more omni-channel strategies using different functionality that both Amazon has and that you can create on your own to kind of look at your business more holistically. And so that's a lot about what we were going to talk about today. In front of you, these two handsome gentlemen, myself, I am Andrew Maffetone. I am the founder and CEO here at BlueTuskr. We are a full-service marketing company for e-commerce brands and implement strategies like this all the time. And then the other handsome gentleman on here is, I will let you do that.
Hey, everybody. My name's JP Wolf. I'm on the Buy with Prime partnerships team at Amazon, based in Denver, Colorado. Been with Amazon close to 6 years now, and I work with our agency partnerships and with a lot of smart agencies like BlueTuskr and Andrew. So thanks for having us today.
Thank you, sir. So towards the end, always the fun stuff, right? So to make sure that you get some type of value out of this, obviously we're going to want to make sure that throughout this entire thing, we're answering any questions that you have. But at the same time, we're going to give a ton of stuff away. So at the end of this event, I'm going to explain how you can submit for all of these things. Everyone that is attending today, we're going to give you the ability to get a free paid media review as well as a 30-minute consultation from our team directly, who are all experts in basically every paid media platform available right now. You could also win a completely free Buy with Prime implementation if it is something that you decide to do. We're going to go over the pros and cons of it today, even with JP on this call. And some eligible brands, earmuffs, even some eligible brands will actually be able to give you up to a 20,000 Amazon DSP advertising credit matching for those of you that want to give it a shot as well. So I'll give you some insight into how to do that. And then I am going to give away one completely full free marketing audit of your choice. So we've got Google Ads, retention marketing, SEO, CRO, bunch of different stuff. So we're going to give a ton of this stuff away. And towards the end, I'm going to tell you guys exactly how to submit for that. Little bit of housekeeping. Up on the right-hand side there, you have a chat capability. Feel free to ask as many questions as you like throughout the entire event. We try to make these as conversational as possible. I know obviously JP and I are presenting and we have this cool little deck, but we do like to feel like everyone is in the room with us. So if you have any questions, feel free to interject, drop them in the chat, and we will try to get to them right around that time. But go time. So we're going to talk about the omni-channel domination and using Amazon to build your empire off Amazon. These are some crazy statistics. So very interesting stuff to think about. One, over the last 5 years, on average, Amazon's FBA fees have increased an average of 10% year over year. As well as within that same time frame, year over year, CPCs have increased an average of 8% and competition has increased an average of 6%. On top of that, I actually learned at Prosper a couple weeks ago while doing this presentation, or a similar one, that about 73% of sales on Amazon last year came from international sellers. JP, you don't know how accurate that is, right? Because that feels astronomically high.
Yeah, that does feel super high, Andrew.
It feels super high. Someone at the Amazon booth told me that. And so I was like, okay, crazy stat. Let's assume that it's not that high, but it's close, right? Like maybe it's 50%, maybe it's less than that. It's still a lot of sales on the US Amazon platform are coming from international sellers. So the problem is, as these international sellers come over and they keep coming over about 6% year over year, even Kevin's heard it before. Basically the pricing of those products, obviously it's a race to the bottom, right? They come over, they bring, there's an issue with a lot of it, like inexpensive things. And in some cases, they're obviously less quality. So it brings down the price of the products that people are searching for, leaving you in this scenario where you can't really increase your costs by too much, or at least too fast, because you have all this increased competition that's coming in at a lower rate. But then you also have this issue where Amazon fees keep going up. And so you're just getting squeezed out. CPCs keep going up because obviously there's more and more competition. So there's less and less real estate for Amazon to run the ads. So you're coming into this problem where your price points are basically maintaining and you can barely increase them. And then you can't Amazon's taking the remainder of your margin. So if you actually do the math on this, let's say you have a $50 product, and let's say you have an average of like a 25 to 30%-ish conversion rate. It will basically mean in about 7 to 8 years, give or take, you will be down to a $0 profit on that product based on the way that these numbers are going. Now, to JP's point that he brought up to me right before we got on this call, solid math. However, obviously you will probably be forced at one point to increase your pricing. However, the concept of the math is still there, of which point like you're getting completely squeezed out. And so that's why what we talk about is looking at from a diversification standpoint. So one of the things that we try to really focus on here at BlueTuskr is not being so reliant on Amazon. However, also acknowledging that Amazon is a revenue generating beast. So there's pros and cons to both of them. So we talk about not staying so single channel focused. Really short story for you. Years and years ago, before I even got into the agency space, I was in-house at a pretty good size, like 8-figure brand. I was the only marketer in-house. I had just started. I was there for I started in August. By December of that year, Q4, we were obviously spending an arm and a leg on Amazon. The credit card, I think, got expired or something like that. So we just had to switch out the card. And for whatever reason, Amazon thought it was fraud and completely shut down the entire account for 2 weeks. I had just put in a bid on a home. Like, I thought I was screwed. And I realized staying so reliant on this individual channel it's just not good business to be so reliant on someone else's business. And so finding ways to start to incorporate more of these omni-channel marketing strategies allows you to start to venture into other sales channels. That could be, obviously, in this scenario, we're going to be talking mainly about your own D2C website, but it could also be other marketplaces as well. And you can actually find ways to leverage Amazon's data to grow your brand off Amazon. And that's going to be what we're talking about today. So doing this, how do you benefit from it, right? So you get more control over your own results. That's the big obvious thing, right? Like being able to, when you're focused on Amazon, you're stuck with Amazon. You can actually have more control from an off Amazon perspective, not only for your own results, but for your own branding. You obviously get a significantly larger increase in brand awareness. One of the big benefits, even from an on Amazon perspective, is as you start to grow your brand from off Amazon, you start to see more and more branded search terms coming through on Amazon. So you're actually creating more demand. And when you're getting more people searching your brand name on Amazon, you don't have to fight for those general keywords as much. So you're actually driving that cost per click down because the chances of you converting it are at a much higher level because it's your own brand name. And then even on top of that, you have a significantly higher valuation, assuming that you do go to exit one day. If you're selling an FBA business, last time I looked up this data, which to be honest, I think was last year. But if you're selling just an FBA business, and let's say you're doing about $10 million a year, you will exit for around an average of a 2 to 3x EBITDA, because really what they're acquiring is your product, probably the people you have in place, your process, your profit, your standard Ps for the most part. But if you have a presence off Amazon, you now also have an email list, you have social media subscribers, you probably have significantly larger profit on your website, you have people visiting your website. So all of a sudden this opens up your buyer pool, because not only are you selling the standard stuff that you would be selling through FBA as well, but you are also now selling your data, which opens it up to other complementary like businesses that could be interested in acquiring you. So there's a lot to benefit from. The consumers also benefit from this. So it also benefits from just providing a better experience for your customers, because now they can shop wherever they're most comfortable, right? In a perfect world, you've got some more room to wiggle for your margin. So maybe you've got some discounts or something on your website, but then maybe they're like, no, I still want it in 2 days, so I go to Amazon. Or maybe they shop on Walmart or something, you let them go there. So having these more omni-channel presence allows the consumer to shop wherever they feel most comfortable, which typically will reduce that barrier to entry and increase your conversion rates across the board. Outside of that, it also brings in more confidence to their purchase. And it also kind of just overall boosts the shipping experience as well, because in some scenarios they can get it faster, right? Now, little story on the background of this and how we kind of got into this. So several years ago, this was probably in like 2018, I think at this point, I had the joy of watching my wife shop. And so basically what she did, she got hit with an Instagram ad. She then went to the website that she was interested in, right? And then got hit with a pop-up. That pop-up had a nice little offer on it, so she filled it out, and it was like 10% off your first order, something like that. And then it went to her email, right? And then she was like, well, I want to see more information about this because they didn't have a ton of reviews. So she actually went to Amazon and looked to see if the product was available on Amazon, and then read through all the reviews. So she kind of skimmed through the listing. Then after that, she waited like a day or so, and she ended up Googling them. She hit their Google ad that took her back to the website. She then remembered that she had the coupon code, so she went back to her email. Stay with me. It's the story. So she went back to her email, got the pop-up, and went back to the PDP, made the purchase. So if you're a marketer, you know that all of that happened within 24 hours. So every single one of those things will take credit for that sale, right? Everything, pretty much every advertising platform, email, all of them have at least a 1-day view through attribution. So all of those are going to take credit. And so from a marketer, you're like, who's getting the credit for this, right? Instagram ad originally drew the intent, but then the Amazon listing kind of actually helped sell it. And then obviously the website helped close it. So it's like, where do you give the credit here? So once I realized that, okay, this is how people shop. It's not just my wife, because I did some additional research. So what we did was, at the time, I was working with a bunch of different brands. And so what we did is we were like, okay, we're going to leave Amazon ad spend as is. We're not going to change anything. And what I want to do is I want to increase something that has brand awareness behind it. So we increased Meta ad spend by 10%. And almost every single time on over a dozen different brands, what we saw was about a 6 to 7 subsequent revenue increase on their website, and then about a 3 to 4% increase on Amazon. That was because what we knew was happening is people are coming to the website and they just know that they can get it in 2 days, or they have better returns or whatever it is. And so they leave the website and they go to Amazon. So now we started thinking like, okay, what do we do with this information? How can we streamline this information? So what we started to build out was these available on Amazon buttons. Very standard, super easy. You just kind of custom design a button and then you throw it up under the add to cart. It improved the overall customer experience because it would allow people to go straight to the listing. Because what I didn't want them doing is going to Amazon, searching for the product, and then getting hit with a bunch of competitors. So I wanted to streamline that journey by taking them straight to the listing. So we create this available on Amazon button and give this a shot. Bunch of different ways to leverage this thing. One, the benefit of doing this was if you use the Amazon attribution code within that button, you are now getting that 10% referral commission for anything that you're sending to your own listings. What we would do is we would add a Google Tag Manager event on top of that button. And so what we would have in place is counting, like obviously through Google Analytics, how many people clicked on this button. And then we would look at the same thing. We would set up the same events within the paid advertising platforms. And what we would then do is go into Amazon and see from the Amazon attribution how many actually closed, right? Because the problem is that it doesn't speak back to those paid advertising platforms. So what we were able to figure out was, okay, on this many clicks, we had this many conversions. So I can assume the conversion rate of these clicks is X%, which means the value of a click is Y, right? So now what we would do is we would take that data, put it into the paid advertising channels and be like, hey, every time that Google Ads gets a click on one of these buttons, attribute, $2 to the value so that we could still have that kind of target ROAS or the target purchase in place. So there was a benefit of it. It was a little bit like gluing stuff together, but it worked really well. So the benefit of obviously all that being you have the 10% referral commission, but it also improved the Amazon listing, right? Because you're driving that much more traffic to the listing. You're getting that much more orders, that much more engagement, that many more reviews. And so obviously this would improve the organic ranking over time. So not only was I improving the customer journey, but I was also improving the Amazon business as well. But there was obviously still a downside. By doing all of this, you don't get to keep any of the data, right? So Amazon still gets all that fun stuff. Amazon's ridiculous fees were still in place. So everyone that I drove there, I still had to pay FBA fees and everything. So while it did increase my conversion rate, I still had to factor in that, while I'm probably closing more business, I'm paying more for that business. And then you factor in your advertising cost, and it's like you really had to do some crazy math to figure out how justifiable this was. And it was very difficult to retarget people because you don't know if they click the button, if they actually converted or not. Yes, you can go into the back and look, but you can't tell the platform. So there really wasn't a way to get those things to talk. And so that would be part of the biggest problem. And so as of January 2023, that was when Buy with Prime publicly became available. And Buy with Prime is this really interesting functionality that we've started to play with that there are pros and cons to. But I am going to let JP take over from here and tell us a little bit more about how it works.
Thanks, Andrew, for teeing me up there. And I can't help myself. Every time you tell the story about watching your wife shop, you talk about the joy of watching your wife shop. I also often watch my wife shop, and I don't think joy is the emotion I would describe. So had to just make a quick joke there. But
I'll try to really amp up the sarcasm next time for you.
For sure. So before I talk specifically about what Buy with Prime is, no matter how cheesy it may sound, you all probably heard this before, but the number one leadership principle at Amazon is customer obsession. Do right by the customer, work backwards from delighting your customer, and good things are going to happen from there, right? And when I think about where Buy with Prime was born, I think there's two sets of customers that Amazon is obsessing over. The first customer is our Prime members. I'm sure everyone on this call is a Prime member, right? And the thing that we love about being Prime members is getting free and fast shipping on Amazon, right? Like very trustworthy, high level of reliability and a go-to for us shopping, a lot of us every single day on Amazon. Buy with Prime allows our Prime members to use their membership to get that same free and fast shipping that they love on Amazon on the websites that they shop on off of Amazon. So we feel like this is a huge value add to the Prime membership, and we're continuing to invest in Prime membership perks like Prime Video, free Grubhub Plus memberships, to name a couple. But I think the second customer that we're obsessed with and probably more relevant to this webinar today is our Amazon sellers. We understand that our Amazon sellers put a ton of focus into their DTC business, and that isn't going to change. So we wanted to think about how we could use our scale and the tools that we've built for Amazon's marketplace to help our sellers be successful off of Amazon as well. And our mission over here at Buy with Prime that we talk a lot about is making every seller wildly successful no matter where they sell using Amazon-powered solutions. So what is Buy with Prime? Shortly put, Buy with Prime offers millions of Prime members fast free delivery and a trusted checkout on your Amazon sellers DTC website. You go to the next slide, Andrew. So what does having the trust of Prime mean to your site? You'll see here some really impactful statistics. 40% of US Prime members indicated they're more likely to make a first-time purchase on a DTC store that features the Amazon Prime logo. You'll see that merchants experience a 26% increase in shopper conversion with the Buy with Prime cart and a 38% increase in shopper conversion with reviews from Amazon, which I'll cover that feature here in a couple of slides. You'll also see brands using Buy with Prime enjoy getting the Prime customer data so they can retarget those Prime shoppers to really focus on increasing that lifetime value. Candidly, one of the challenges we hear from our sellers is the lack of data that they get when someone checks out on Amazon and buys their product on Amazon. However, every time someone uses Buy with Prime on your website, you are getting their name, email, phone number, and physical address, which again is super valuable on the marketing side to retarget and increase that lifetime value for your shoppers. Let's look at just kind of the shopper experience. Hopefully a lot of you have already used this and this looks pretty familiar, but you'll typically see the Buy with Prime button listed on a product detail page. It'll ping the IP address based on where the shopper is to determine where the delivery estimate is going to appear. And when you click that button, you're asked to log into your Amazon account unless you're already signed in on that device, where you can then choose from all of your stored payment methods and addresses on your Amazon account to check out. You'll see this checkout removes a ton of friction, no hunting for your wallet, manually typing in your physical address and shipping address. Fingers crossed those match. You can check out in as little as 2 clicks and provides just a very familiar checkout process that gives shoppers a lot of confidence as they use Prime very regularly. And when it comes to free and fast shipping, just a couple of quick stats to throw out there. A study from Wunderman Thompson and Digital Commerce 360 shows that 69% of shoppers say that free shipping is the number one reason that they're likely to make a purchase online. And the number one thing consumers would change about online shopping is faster delivery. And you'll see here, Buy with Prime delivers on both. Reviews from Amazon. So we all know how important reviews are for shoppers considering buying a product. And just a couple other stats that I was reading from a large e-commerce solution provider is that 76% of consumers admit they are less likely to make a purchase from a retailer that doesn't have reviews. And Gartner had a study that showed reviews and social proof influences 90% of buyers who are comparing products. And so one great feature that is totally optional that comes along with Buy with Prime is reviews from Amazon, where you can actually pull in your Amazon.com reviews onto your DTC website where you're offering Buy with Prime. And anecdotally, I work with tons of clients who sell the same product on Amazon and their DTC. You'll go to Amazon, you'll see they have great reviews, thousands of reviews, but on that same product on their DTC, there's like a fraction of the reviews there. So we've seen actually when you pull in your reviews from Amazon, we've seen that increase in conversion go all the way up to 38%. So a super powerful feature that comes along with Buy with Prime, which again is totally optional. So this all sounds great, but when it comes to implementing, I just want to call out a couple of common integration paths on how brands can get this on their website. The first one is the Buy with Prime app for Shopify. This allows you to enable Buy with Prime within your Shopify console, not only kind of streamlining the integration, but also allowing all of your Buy with Prime orders and data to flow into your Shopify dashboards, which makes things really easy for the back-end folks from a BAU perspective. And then the second integration path that I'll call out, Andrew, on the next slide is our widget. And there is a 5-step process outlined here where you link your existing Seller Central account to your Buy with Prime account, confirm which products you want to offer Buy with Prime on, and then install the button code on to present the Buy with Prime button. Regardless of which path you take, we try to make the implementation as easy as possible. We have an onboarding team that can hold your hand and assist, and even better, in this instance, like Andrew and the BlueTuskr team have been a great partner of ours for several years. They've done both integration paths, and you'd be in really great hands helping them get you set up either way. And then next slide, Andrew. You've done it. You've done both. You've done a bunch of both. So you're in good hands with Andrew. And it's one thing, to hear from me at Amazon how great Buy with Prime is, right? But I think it's another thing to actually hear like what the brands are saying. Have a lot of case studies, depending on what your vertical is or the type of product that you sell that would match up well, that I'd be happy to follow up and share with any of you post webinar. But you'll see here, Bare Minerals, 60% increase in conversion, 40% increase in sales per visitor, and 5 to 7 business days of extra selling time during peak holiday season. That one's near and dear to my heart. I procrastinate, especially around Christmas time. And we all know you start getting to like December 17th or 18th, and your options become very limited on what you can order and still get in time for Christmas. However, when you're offering Buy with Prime, you could still hypothetically be buying things on Christmas Eve that could still be on your doorstep on Christmas time. So those 5 to 7 extra shipping days and holiday days for shopping could mean a lot to brands' bottom lines. And last slide, Andrew, before I turn it back over to you, we're finding that Buy with Prime is a great new customer acquisition tool. You'll see Sherpani mentioning 87% of their Buy with Prime orders are placed by first-time customers. Wise mentioning 45% of Buy with Prime orders from new customers. And Hydrolite mentioning that 37% of their new customers started their purchasing journey through Buy with Prime. So again, Buy with Prime is a really great customer acquisition tool. It brings a ton of trust to your website, to shoppers, especially if they're shopping on your website for the first time. And with that, Andrew, I can pass it back over to you. You can talk a little bit about how you can leverage Buy with Prime once it's on your site.
Yeah. And actually, to piggyback off a couple of these things, I know, like I mentioned, towards the end, the implementation of these, some are code heavier, some are not. If it's something that you all are interested in, I'm going to give you some insight at the end. We'll do it for you because at this point, we've done so many of them. That it's a quick and painless thing. But I've actually got a case study that's similar to this that's a little bit different, so that It's not, give you another example there. And we're seeing the same thing with the customer acquisition side. So I'm going to feed a little bit of insight into that, but really it becomes down to like how you use it, right? Like it's one of the things of like, if you're building a house and I gave you a fork, like, cool, a fork's a nice tool, but it's not going to do what you need it to do. So there's also the element of like, how are you actually going to leverage this functionality, and how are you going to actually benefit from the new data that you're getting? Because it's one of the biggest things that we get. We talk to brands all the time about Buy with Prime. I pride myself in having a real conversation with them about the pros and the cons of it and whether it's justifiable for them or not. And the biggest pushback I get that I always am like, I can't really do anything with this, is when you get the, I don't want Amazon to have my data, right? Because it is an Amazon functionality. You're getting the data this time. So obviously when someone shops on Amazon, you don't get it. But in this scenario, you do get it. However, of course, it's an Amazon functionality, so they're getting it as well. And my argument to that all the time is like, well, what are you going to do with it? Because a lot of times no one's even leveraging their data well enough. So that's one of the things that here at BlueTuskr, we try to focus on as much as we can. So one of the things we usually look at is once we actually put this functionality into place, we're still using the Google tag event. So we can separate out through all paid media channels who purchased kind of the traditional way and who purchased through Buy with Prime. So we can also evaluate if there's different ROAS targets for different things. So you still want to implement that functionality. It also will integrate with Meta, Google, TikTok, any ESP, so Klaviyo, MailChimp, Omnichannel, etc. Obviously Google Analytics. So you can segment all of these audiences. And that's where this data separation becomes very interesting. So there's a lot of information that I'm going to touch on here about if you can separate out your audience of people who are more likely to shop with you on Amazon, it actually becomes very interesting to figure out, okay, how can I use this data to incentivize that specific audience to do something, whether it's shop directly on Amazon or whether it's shop on your own website. So the big benefit of Buy with Prime is you get to keep the data, right? That available on Amazon button. One of the big cons I mentioned is you don't get to keep the data, right? You go to Amazon and that's it. The other big downside of the available on Amazon button is when I was doing that, people would still get hit with FBA fees, right? So the brands would still have these massive 30, 35% fees that are always going up, and you have kind of the same issues. Plus you have a ton of competitors all over the listings. And, it's kind of like you can't really control too much there. In this scenario, it's way fewer fees. So JP, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a 3% commission right now, right?
3%, correct.
Yeah. So it's 3% fee as opposed to your Amazon FBA fee. So wildly different. However, there is an MCF fulfillment fee. So it's a little bit different math. They've got a calculator on the site. I can also help everyone figure it out. Basically, it kind of works out where there's the FBA, there's the MCF fee and the 3% commission. Most of the time for a lot of products, it still comes up wildly less expensive than your FBA fees. There's certain products where in certain sizes where it becomes a little bit more interesting. But the other thing being, sorry, I saw Timothy's question. Timothy, yeah, I'll get the PowerPoint out. Just I'll give you some information at the end. You can shoot me an email and I can send it to you. But so you've got significantly less fees. The other thing too is now if someone purchases multiple products, then it actually reduces your fulfillment fee. So it actually can come down. So it's interesting math you have to look at based on like how people shop on your site on average. But at the same time, they also have mixed cart now. So it's one of the big problems that we've had for a while that was finally resolved, I think, late last year, I think it was, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so it was late last year, finally solved. So now if you've got products on your website that you're like, you know what, it makes sense for these products to have Buy with Prime. It doesn't make sense for these. You don't have to do it for all of them. So what we can actually do now is someone can check out one time and they will get stuff that's Buy with Prime and stuff that's not. So it doesn't have to be two complete checkouts. The other benefit is being able to kind of leverage this from an upsell and a cross-sell perspective. And then to JP's point, the quicker shipping for holidays is fantastic. A lot of people that really rely on Amazon, like a couple days before Christmas, you're still making sales. And then that's when you start to see it come down. But on D2C sites, it's like a good week, maybe 2 weeks before that you slowly start to see things trending down. With this functionality, you get to keep all of those sales coming through just as if they shopped on Amazon. because as you saw on, you can kind of see it on this slide, but JP's is actually a little bit more clear. Right underneath this Buy with Prime button, it gives you the information of when someone can expect the delivery, just like if they were to do it on Amazon. So if they're going to make a conversion towards the end of the holiday, they can see like, oh, wow, I can still get this in time for the holiday as long as I use this Buy with Prime functionality. So one of the things you have to factor in, usually what we work with brands on, is like, hey, there's no downside to trying it. So it's a completely, like, you set it up, you do a run a test, and then you just look at the math. You're typically going to see an increase in conversions. Even if you discount the Buy with Prime orders, but then you're also going to have faster shipping. So it's reducing the barrier to entry for that user. So then it comes down to math of like, okay, is that additional information worth having those fees on there? And 9 times out of 10, it still lines up. Then as of September, this is my new favorite thing. This is where I went, okay, this makes all sense. This is where I was like, all right, JP, you're going to hear from me very frequently. And unfortunately, I'm going to blow up your inbox more often than you'd like. So as of September, Amazon has finally released the functionality where you can use Amazon DSP to drive traffic from Amazon back to your website, as long as you have Buy with Prime. So think about, instead of thinking about Amazon as a revenue driver and your business, think about it as a customer acquisition tool, right? Now, all of a sudden, Amazon has built this massive audience of people that obviously are coming there to shop, and it's becoming more and more expensive. But what if you're using it now to acquire net new customers, and then using DSP to incentivize those customers to come back to your website to shop there? So now think about, especially for CPG brands or anyone who's got a subscription, people go to Amazon, they take their one-time purchase, you wait like 30 days-ish, and then you start running ads to them that says like, hey, if you really like this product that you bought on Amazon, come subscribe on our website for X% off your first order, or however you map that out. Same thing for a great upsell and cross-sell products, right? So if you've got a product that has an immediate thing that's like obviously a great complement to the product that they purchased, or you want to try to upsell them on something, now you can run ads to them to drive them back to your website. That's the clear middle of funnel. Like, these are no-brainers that should definitely get tried if you've got DSP, to be able to start to take business away from Amazon and drive it back to your website. There's other top of funnel approaches. Obviously, if you're on DSP, you know all the functionality. You can retarget people that visited your listing and didn't convert. Maybe you want to incentivize them to come to your website now. Or maybe you want to run ads to people that visited competitor listings and didn't convert. So there's a ton of different ways you can look at it, but it's an amazing way to start to incentivize people to shop on your website as soon as they visited Amazon, to let them know that you've got, additional offers and things like that on your site. So it's a great brand builder to leverage Amazon's data. The downside, while it is much lower, there are still fees. If you're, you got great product margin on your website, this is going to lower that a little bit just for the orders that go through Buy with Prime. It's obviously not every single order. It doesn't benefit your Amazon listing. I talked about the available on Amazon button, driving traffic from your website back to Amazon. The big benefit to that is you kind of get that additional organic ranking. This does not affect your listing. There's no traffic to the listing, nothing. It's just fulfilled directly out of FBA. So there's no benefit there. And then for some brands, you can absolutely make it work. This is also why, like, from an implementation standpoint, we can help out, because you got to make it look good. You don't want to just throw the button up on the website. There's certain scenarios where there are brands where, the aesthetic of it, like a certain blue against their more like pastel colors, it kind of tends to be the traditional stuff from like social media. Like there's things where it can kind of clash with the brand. So there's ways to make it work. We've worked with, at this point, JP, we've probably done a couple dozen implementations at this point, if not more. At least. Yeah, so there's tens of thousands of ways you can make it work. It's just kind of playing with it. Then there's incorporating the Amazon side. So how you start to do this from a marketing strategy standpoint. JP showed off a really good case study. We actually did one with them as well. We saw the exact same results. We did a Buy with Prime implementation with a brand called SnapMounts, and they saw a 45% increase in orders, an 18% increase in average order value, and a 55% increase in conversion. However, that is not factoring in the orders that came from Buy with Prime. This is only factoring in the orders that came from their website. The theory is here, the reason that happened is because the brand awareness that Amazon has brings this kind of comfort to consumers. Plus, you're also bringing over your Amazon reviews. So if you've got a product that has hundreds, maybe thousands of reviews on Amazon, but then you're showcasing them on your website as well, it's elevating that social proof. And so it's reducing that barrier to entry. And so people are more comfortable to shop with you. They see that there's more legitimacy behind it. A lot of your average consumer, like we're all guilty of, we're in this day in and day out. So we know that how all the tips and tricks and all the little things that everyone's doing whenever you're shopping on someone's website, but your average consumer has no idea. So they're coming to your website, they're seeing that you're available on Amazon, that you have all these reviews. And so they're just like, oh, this is an extremely reputable brand, and they're significantly lower to barrier to entry. And so they tend to convert better. Obviously, you're getting the benefit from an SEO perspective from all those added reviews as well. But just having that brand awareness seems to really incentivize people to make that purchase on your website, especially if you have different incentives or something for like first-time purchasers and things like that. Then you have the paid media side. So we talked about when you're doing these Google tags and you've got everything segmented and you're separating it all out, that you can start to build out these different audiences of people that have shopped with you through Buy with Prime. So even if they clicked on the button and then they didn't go through all the way to conversion, at least now we know people that had some type of interest in Amazon. So one of those things that becomes very interesting is if now you want to make sure that next time they purchase on your website, they're not using Buy with Prime. Sorry, JP, earmuffs. Then you can have certain incentives in place to incentivize them to purchase through something besides Buy with Prime. So if you do a discount, Buy with Prime, you can line them up completely with Shopify or with WooCommerce or BigCommerce or whatever you have, but you can also do them separate, where you can have a sale just through Buy with Prime stuff and just through non-Buy with Prime purchases. So what you can do is actually put these different incentives in place to incentivize them to convert the traditional way next time. So you use it as a customer acquisition tool again. But then you also have the different ways that you can benefit your Amazon business. So the omnichannel approach, it's not always just looking at how can I grow my D2C business. It's how can I grow my business holistically. And in some scenarios, that also means potentially driving traffic back to Amazon. I'm sure there's people on this event that are like, I would never do that. F Amazon, I'm not helping them anymore. But in some scenarios, it makes a lot of sense. For example, when you're doing a product launch on Amazon, we all know you've got like a 30 to 60 day like honeymoon period where your ranking is a little bit better than it's normally going to be. You get a good amount of sales. And then if you don't get enough in, it starts to fall off, right? In this scenario, if you've already got an email list or you've got a warm audience through your social media, you can now target this specific audience that you know is more likely to shop on Amazon, give them an incentive and send them straight to Amazon. Just to that new product, do a product launch, get that snowball effect going, and then pivot that traffic back to your website. It's also great for stuff like Prime Day, really anything along those lines. So it's basically taking all of that data, segmenting it, and figuring out how can you use this data and personalize the messaging to these different people. Same thing with DSP, except in the reverse, right? With DSP, it's incentivizing those purchasers to come back to your website to subscribe, or non-converters to come back to your website, so kind of your standard retargeting. But then you can also retarget competitors and have different content in place that kind of showcases like, hey, we know you bought this, but maybe you have a buyback program. I don't know. There's a billion different ways you could go with this because every brand is obviously very different, but it's also fantastic for upsells. So these are all the things that we usually sit down and we go, okay, let's implement this for you. And then let's walk through, here's a lot of different campaign strategies that might be worth exploring to help you grow the business and not be so reliant on the Amazon side. The retention side's the exact same thing, right? So we're Klaviyo, MailChimp, and Omnisend partners now. So usually what we do with those, if they get implemented through Buy with Prime, we segment out those audiences and we look at, are there certain email campaigns that we want to put in place to maybe automatically set up automated flows to automatically tell people that shop through Buy with Prime, here's an incentive for you to buy the traditional way next time. Or if we want to send that traffic to Amazon because of, if we're doing a sale or something like that, or we have the product launch. So it's a very similar approach because obviously if you're doing your marketing correctly and you're trying to put out a messaging, you know that the best way to do it is to do it across the board. That's why you have social media, social ads, Google ads, pop-ups, emails, you name it. If you can put that promotion together and blast it out, it allows that messaging to go further. And it's the exact same approach with your email marketing. Then it's putting all the tools together, right? So now you're looking at how are you cross-leveraging your data? How are you looking at revenue? Are you doing it by everything holistically? Are you doing it by channel? It it kind of stems back to that conversation I had before. Like I watched my wife go back and forth when she was shopping. We did those meta ad tests where people jumped from their website over to Amazon. And so what this starts to do is it starts to reduce the people jumping, because it's the biggest problem with marketing from a digital marketing perspective now is digital marketing, in my eyes, is slowly starting to become more and more like traditional marketing. You can't paint the picture of an ROI for a billboard. I don't care who you are. You don't know the true ROI of a billboard. As time goes on and as digital marketing keeps growing, that's going to happen. We're already, was it in 2020 when the new iOS came out and we had all the reduction from like lookalike audiences stopped working. You had all these other issues with tracking. And now the average consumer is so comfortable shopping and so comfortable doing their own due diligence that they're hopping around different channels to figure out where they can get the nicest deal and where they're more comfortable in shopping. And so as e-commerce sellers have to get used to this type of stuff and understand that we need our marketing to be a blanket statement across all of our channels and use our website as the place that we really want you to convert, but also use it as an ability to showcase all the areas that you're available. So cross-leveraging all this data by driving traffic to Amazon, driving traffic away from Amazon is not only going to provide a better experience for the consumer, but it's also going to do the exact same at building the business and making you that much more valuable. I have one more strategy for you before we start to close things up here. I wanted to do one that was irrelevant to Buy with Prime and to the available on Amazon button, but I know that there's a ton of Amazon sellers on here, and this is one of my favorite ones that if you were at Prosper this year, by the way, 2 weeks ago, I did this presentation, a little bit more condensed version of this, and I didn't have JP's beautiful face joining me either. But this was the section where everyone was like, hey, I want to try this, I want to try that, blah, blah. But then they were like, this is nuts. I can't believe no one does this. So I think I might have to do another webinar on this one day that kind of builds this out. But basically, it's improving your Amazon business from off Amazon by using SEO strategies. Sounds pretty standard. However, if you don't know, every website has a domain authority. So it's basically a ranking for how Google ranks your domain, right? Every page has a page authority. So websites with higher domain authorities, they tend to grow page authorities faster, but a brand new website with a high domain authority, even when it launches a brand new page, it's not going to rank really well right away. It's still going to take some time for it to grow. It's basically an individual page ranking, right? So one of the things that we've started doing from an Amazon perspective, and so for all the brands that we work with that sell both on Amazon and off Amazon, we start to incorporate developing content on their D2C sites, and we're using backlinks that are linking over to their Amazon products. And at the same time, we might be building additional backlinks to these Amazon listings. Because what actually starts to happen is your organic ranking on Google starts to improve more and more for the Amazon listing. And so obviously, the more ranking you get on Google, the more clicks you're going to start getting, because just like on Amazon, if you're on page one, you're in a good spot. People start clicking. They click over to the listing. You're now getting more traffic, more engagement, more orders, more reviews. Amazon loves that. And so your organic ranking on Amazon also starts to improve. So it's a huge miss. And it's always one of those things I really like to throw in there where it's like, hey, this isn't relevant to either button. I want to provide some extra value here in terms of growing your Amazon business as well and finding a way to develop that omni-channel strategy. So there's ways to incorporate the URLs from your Amazon listings to improve the ranking of your Amazon listing on Google, which will also help improve the ranking on Amazon organically as well. Very interesting. Highly recommend it. We see awesome results from it, mainly because Amazon's domain authority is already so high. So your listings should be able to move up a lot faster than usual. And then as long as they're also linking correctly, ideally, it will help your website as well. So all this stuff, the big question of how do you start? What's the approach? A lot of brands that we spoke to, especially at Prosper, if they're just selling on Amazon, they're like, okay, how do I start selling off Amazon and start to diversify? I never suggest taking the big jump. Don't go investing tens of thousands of dollars into a new website or something like that. And then it's a different beast. Amazon, you make a really nice listing, you run some ads, you get people there. As long as you got good product, that thing's going to take off. Off Amazon, though, even though you're going to be more profitable, there's a lot more triggers you got to pull. You got social media, you have email marketing, you have SEO, you have 5 or 6 different paid advertising channels that you could start with right off the gate. So there's a lot of things you have to factor in. And so there's an easy way to do this where you're actually slow rolling into it and you're not investing too much, too heavily, too fast. So the way to do this, if you're on Amazon and you are obviously ideally at this point running sponsored brands, so you have your own storefront. As long as you can prove out that that storefront is converting, you're in a really good spot. because now what's happening is you've proven, okay, my storefront can convert. Great, fantastic. Now we're going to try some off Amazon stuff instead of jumping immediately to a website or jumping immediately into anything else. What you're going to do is you're going to figure out for your product line, which paid advertising channel is the smartest way for you to go. It could be social media for some, so it probably requires education on different differentiation or like just education on why the product exists in itself. Or there's a ton of search volume, but not a ton of competition. So maybe you're going after Google ads. So you have to figure that out, which is the best way for you to go. Focus on one channel, drive that traffic straight to your storefront. You've already proven the storefront can convert. So now what you're doing is, can I prove out that off Amazon traffic can convert still on Amazon? So you're trying to see, can I get this off Amazon traffic to convert by basically driving that traffic? You're only going to be able to do like maximizing clicks or targeting clicks. But if you're using the Amazon attribution code, or even if you're just using the code in the back of the storefront, you'll be able to track, can it convert? It may not be profitable, but you're just trying to prove it out. You're just trying to ease into it so that you're not jumping into bigger expenses. So you prove out that, okay, I can drive traffic from off Amazon to Amazon and get it to convert. Now we want to see, okay, can I get this off Amazon traffic to convert off Amazon? Instead of jumping to a full website, if you don't need to do that yet, the next thing you can do is look at just building out a landing page. Lean in on your top seller, maybe your top category. Just build out the landing page. I suggest doing it on Shopify, because if you do take the next step, then you're not doing 500 different website platforms. And then on this landing page, I would still incorporate either the available on Amazon button or the buy with Prime button. And so that way you're keeping that barrier to entry as low as possible. You know that everyone you've driven to your storefront is more likely to convert because they like shopping on Amazon. What you're testing now is, can I get them to convert even if Amazon's not an option? And we're not ready there yet. So the first thing we're going to do is put in that available on Amazon button and the buy with Prime button. Drive some traffic to that. See how much you can get people to convert. In a perfect world, you're getting them to convert the traditional way. In some cases, it's either through available on Amazon or buy with Prime. Then you just start A/B testing, taking those buttons away, and just let them convert traditionally through the add to cart. At this point, you should have enough proof, enough data, enough, probably a little bit of email list and enough traffic coming to that page that you can then figure out, is it justifiable for you to actually then create that website? Or should you keep this landing page process going? Should you go back to driving traffic straight to Amazon, or should you nix the whole thing? So there's a way to ease into it where you're only spending money on traffic driving initiatives and maybe one landing page before you jump into a really large website. So there's ways to kind of ease into that. That's one of those things that we help a lot of e-commerce brands and Amazon sellers walk through and figure out the best way to do that. So all of that said and done, that's how you start building off Amazon. So it's obviously a way to really start to adapt to your modern shopper, as we stated there. Like I said, my wife's been shopping like that for years, and so has really everyone else. If you've ever sat down and really like tried to step away from knowing what you probably know because you're in the industry, you'll see yourself doing the same thing. You'll get hit with an ad and on Instagram or TikTok or something, and you might go to Amazon to see if they have it there to learn more about them or anything. So it's really starting to put these strategies in place, because this is where not only where Amazon is kind of forcing you to go because of certain price points and squeezing you out in margins, but it's also how the consumer is starting to move as well, where it's becoming a much more like, lack of a better term, it's a much more like incestuous kind of thing where everyone is all over the place on where they're shopping and everything kind of bleeds over. So it's really developing these more omni-channel mindsets and starting to build out these different functionalities and leveraging that data to benefit your business holistically and not always just Amazon's business. And whether that means integrating something like Buy with Prime or trying it available on Amazon button, I'm a big fan of the omni-channel side. And that is obviously how that's going to lower your competition, increase your margins. Boom. I think we did all right. So we're going to take some time here to answer some questions. But as I promised, so everyone who is attending today, we're going to give you guys a free paid media review of your choice. So Meta, Google, Amazon, take your pick. And then a 30-minute consultation with our paid media team, so you can kind of get some insight into like, hey, here's the best ways to explore this, because paid media is obviously the fastest way to revenue. Not the cheapest, but it is the fastest short-term thing here. If you're interested in Buy with Prime, shoot me an email. I'm going to actually send everyone an email with some insight, but I'm also going to put my email in the chat here. So it's Andrew@BlueTuskr.com. That's BLUETUSKR. We will get you set up with Buy with Prime implementation completely for free. And then assuming that you're eligible, so there's a few things we got to look at. We will work with you to figure that out. If we can get you up to about $20,000 in matched Amazon DSP ad credits as well to test out the whole thing. Like I said, it's a test. There's no rule. It doesn't say you have to have Buy with Prime on your website for X amount of time. There's nothing. You only pay the fee if someone actually converts, which is what everyone loves. And then also, if you want to be, if you're interested in getting into the raffle for the free marketing audit, whether it's Google Ads, retention marketing, SEO, or CRO, shoot me an email. I will add you into the raffle, and I will announce our winner probably tomorrow. I'll let everyone's kind of stuff comes in because I know some people watch this again later. But questions, comments, concerns, let me know. JP, thank you. As that answer, you already answered Hannah's question. So yes, Buy with Prime is only currently available in the U.S. So you have to have a U.S. entity, right? I believe.
Correct. Yep.
Beautiful. We also had a question from Lori. What are the strategic nuances for B2B products doing very well on Amazon now? I think it depends on the product. I mean, at this point, we've worked with so many B2B commerce sellers. There could be 15 ways to do that. So it depends on, do you have a lead generation element to you? Or when you say B2B, are you also talking about like, okay, we want people to sign up for wholesale accounts? So like that might be a bigger question. But otherwise, it just depends on who you're targeting and how you're targeting them, right? That's going to come more from your paid advertising initiatives or your SEO, your email marketing, et cetera. How are you messaging to that more B2B audience and incentivizing them to convert more so than you would for like traditional consumers where it's just like, hey, buy this for your everyday life. Woo! I talked for a while. Thank you, everyone who joined us. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to shoot me an email, andrew@BlueTuskr.com, or if you have any interest in these, and then I will also shoot an email in about the next hour or so here with some extra insight. But I think we did it. Did I miss anything? We good, buddy?
Nailed it.
Beautiful.
Thanks for having us, Andrew. Really great webinar. Thanks, everyone, for attending.
Thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and good luck with your Omnichannel stuff. Have a good one.